Okay, let's dive into something that really jumped out from the material you shared.
Right.
We're talking about a really bold claim here. The idea that you could become, well, rich, as the source puts it, in just 6 months.
Yeah, it's definitely attention grabbing.
And not through, like, winning the lottery or like a passive trick.
No, exactly. But by following a very specific step-by-step formula, and that's really what this deep dive is about, exploring that exact formula. It's laid out in the source, the 6-month wealth formula from the Money Mindset Podcast 4 that you sent over.
Yeah.
And it starts with a pretty direct premise. It argues that financial struggles, well, they aren't primarily just bad luck or outside forces.
Exactly. The source really doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
It makes the case up front that for a lot of people, staying poor is linked back to, ingrained bad habits, a limiting mindset, and frankly, just repeating the same financial mistakes again and again. Their core argument is, you can't expect to solve your money problems with the same kind of thinking
Yeah.
or the same actions that got you into them.
Right. That got you there in the first place.
So shifting your mindset, that's presented as absolutely fundamental, non-negotiable almost.
And what's really interesting is how quickly the source moves from that diagnosis, let's say, to a really concrete plan.
Yeah.
They don't just dwell on the problem. They immediately propose this structured 6-month process designed specifically to break that cycle.
So our mission today is really to unpack the how. How do they claim this works? The source gives us a roadmap, right? A 7-step process covering, well, everything from drastically cutting costs and building some initial savings to learning new skills, actually generating extra income, getting absolute clarity through tracking everything, putting that money to work, and even actively managing the people and information around you.
It's a really comprehensive approach they're suggesting. One that they claim can fundamentally transform your financial path in, well, half a year.
Yeah.
It's a formula, as they frame it, and it demands intense focus, discipline, borrowing methods, maybe often associated with wealthy folks, but presenting them as actionable steps for anyone willing to commit, really, for these 6 months.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. With their argument about why people stay stuck, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow for some, isn't it? Because they place the responsibility so squarely on internal stuff.
They really do lean into that idea of personal responsibility. Yeah, the source makes a strong assertion that many people stay poor, essentially. Well, by choice is how they put it.
Wow.
Directly linking it to those deeply ingrained habits and a detrimental mindset. It's a challenging perspective, no doubt, because it suggests external circumstances are maybe less significant than an individual's internal financial programming and their daily decisions. Right. And they argue the critical moment, the turning point, happens when you shift from feeling like, oh, I'm just a victim of my circumstances, to, no, I am actually in control of my money. That mental pivot, they present that as the absolute non-negotiable foundation.
Exactly.
You have to believe change is possible before any of the practical steps can really, gain traction.
And if we kind of connect this to the broader world of financial advice, what the source is really emphasizing here is the psychological dimension. It's often underestimated, I think, in wealth building. They frame it not just as acquiring money, but as needing a completely different mental operating system.
Yeah.
Different from the one that led to the financial difficulties.
Right.
It's very much mind over money to a significant extent in their view.
Okay, so with that foundational mindset piece established, let's get into the nuts and bolts. The actual 6-month wealth formula itself.
Right.
They break it down into 7 distinct steps, strategically sequenced over this half-year period. And the first couple of steps, they hit fast. Absolutely. Step 1, recommended for just the initial weeks. Weeks 1 to 2 is presented as a necessary financial detox. A shock to the system, maybe.
Okay. And what does that involve?
This is where the source advises just ruthlessly cutting living costs. I mean, ruthlessly.
Okay.
We're talking canceling all non-essential subscriptions, eliminating eating out entirely, stopping impulsive purchases, basically putting all discretionary spending on absolute lockdown for the full 6 months.
Wow. Okay. That's intense.
It is. They give you this brutal filter question for every single spending decision. Is this helping me get rich or keeping me broke? The source claims that even if you're on minimum wage, this intense focus immediately gives you cash control. which they see as the very first taste of financial power. It's about creating immediate space, breathing room in your budget.
And creating that immediate space is crucial, I guess, because it flows directly into step 2.
Exactly. Which they suggest you tackle right after that detox in bulk 2 to 3.
Okay, what's step 2?
Right. Take whatever money you've managed to free up in those first couple of weeks and dedicate all of it, every penny, to building a $1,000 emergency fund.
Okay, $1,000.
And the rule here is strict. This isn't for investing yet. It isn't for paying down all your debt initially. It's purely to get $1,000 cash into a separate account that you absolutely do not touch.
Why is that specific amount, that buffer, so critical right at the start?
Well, the critical why the source provides is about breaking the cycle, where people with low savings are constantly getting derailed by small, unexpected emergencies.
Yeah, the car repair, the medical bill.
Exactly. Those things force them back into debt or just deeper into financial instability. This buffer, this $1,000, is designed purely to keep you on track.
Right.
To prevent those common setbacks from throwing you completely off course as you try to build wealth.
Okay, this is interesting. Here's where the formula takes a turn that might feel, well, counterintuitive, especially after focusing so hard on saving and cutting. Step 3, schedule for weeks 3 to 4. It isn't about finding a second job right away or working more hours at your current rate.
No.
It's about choosing one high-income skill and dedicating time, real time, to learn it.
Yes, this is a really pivotal shift in focus in their plan. The argument is, look, your current earning rate is probably limited.
Right.
So instead of just trying to do more of that same work,
Yeah.
you need to actually increase your value in the marketplace.
Okay. And what kind of schools did they suggest?
Well, they suggest things like copywriting, digital marketing, maybe video editing, affiliate marketing, or coding. Skills where you can potentially charge significantly more for your time or for the results you deliver.
And they're practical about how to learn them.
Yeah, very practical. They've mentioned YouTube, free online courses, tutorials. The source is actually quite stark here. They say things like, no Netflix until your bank account smiles back at you.
Huh. Okay, direct.
They draw this sharp contrast between what they perceive as wealthy people investing time learning how to boost their earning power versus others who, they argue, waste time escaping reality.
Oof. Okay.
So this step 3, is purely an investment of time and mental energy into boosting your long-term earning capacity.
Right.
It's about acquiring an asset, the skill itself, that can potentially change the fundamental rate, the rate at which you exchange your time for money.
Which then leads us directly into step 4, right? Targeted for month 2. Start a side hustle using that skill you've just started learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the phase where you transition from just acquiring the skill to actively trying to monetize it, make money from it.
How do they suggest doing that?
The source suggests getting on platforms like Fiverr or Upwork, maybe leveraging Facebook groups, even Craigslist.
Okay.
They even advise, look, maybe offer your initial work for free or very cheap, just to get some testimonials, build your confidence, get some runs on the board.
That makes sense. The source calls this the crucial step, doesn't it? The one that separates those who just talk about making more money from those who actually do it.
That's their point, yeah. If you're not actively monetizing your valuable time or your skills, someone else probably is. Landing even one paid gig, just one, they argue, is proof of concept and incredibly powerful for your mindset for believing this is possible.
Okay, so by month 2, if you're following this, you've hopefully cut costs way down.
Right.
Built that small emergency buffer, started learning a valuable new skill, and taken the first steps to actually earn money with it. So what's next? Step 5.
Step 5, scheduled for months 2 to 3. This is all about gaining absolute control and clarity over your money. Simple but demanding. Track every single dollar.
Every single way.
That's what the source insists. You must know exactly where your money is coming from and exactly where it's going. Use apps, a spreadsheet, a notebook, whatever system works for you. But get total visibility.
Why is this level of tracking so critical in their formula?
Well, the source puts it pretty bluntly. You can't grow what you don't measure. They see budgeting and tracking not as something restrictive, but as a weapon of the rich. That's their framing.
Interesting.
Their argument is that clarity about your money, that builds wealth. Confusion, on the other hand, is a path to debt. It's about taking proactive command of your financial flow.
Okay, so with income starting to potentially increase from the side hustle,
Yeah.
and having total control over spending, the formula shifts again.
Right. Step 6 kicks in during months 4 to 6.
And this is,
Invest. Invest 30% of all extra income you're now generating from that side hustle.
30%. Okay.
Yep. As that side hustle ideally grows, the emphasis moves beyond just earning more. It's about making that additional money actually work for you.
Where do they suggest investing it?
The source suggests putting this 30% into growth assets. Examples they give include things like a Roth IRA, low-cost index funds, or even reinvesting directly back into scaling your side business to make it grow faster.
Got it.
This is where the real leverage associated with wealth building starts to kick in, according to the source.
So it's not just about making the extra, say, $500 or $1,000 a month. It's about consciously ensuring a significant chunk of that new income stream is actively working to build your net worth for the long term.
Precisely. And finally, there's step 7, which isn't confined to a specific time frame like months 4 to 6,
Right.
but is presented as a continuous, ongoing process, something you do throughout the entire 6 months and probably beyond.
And what's that one?
This is the one about your environment, your mindset influences. The advice is stark. Cut out broke people and broke thinking.
Wow. Okay. That sounds harsh.
It is strong language, yeah. The source makes a very strong, some might definitely say controversial, claim here. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
I've heard that before.
So if those closest to you are, in the source's exact words, broke, negative, constantly complaining, and lack ambition,
Yeah.
the advice is stark distance yourself. That's what they say. And instead, actively curate your environment. Seek out positive influences. Uplifting podcasts, inspiring YouTube channels, maybe find mentors, read books that align with your financial goals.
They really emphasize protecting your mindset, don't they? Almost like it's a tangible asset.
Totally. As important as protecting your life, is how they put it. It's about consciously building a psychological and social support system that reinforces rather than undermines your efforts towards financial change.
So the source's perspective is genuinely holistic then. It's not just about the numbers.
Not at all. The numbers and the actions are only part of the equation, the mental and social environment you cultivate.
Wow.
That's seen as absolutely critical to sustaining the effort and the belief required for this kind of transformation.
All right, so looking back at everything we've just pulled from this source, the diagnosis, that intense focus on action and mindset, and the 7-step formula. What does the source actually claim is realistically possible after consistently applying this for 6 months?
Yeah, based on their description, the potential outcomes they outline are quite specific.
Okay.
The source suggests that within those 6 months, you could realistically expect to have established a working side hustle, one that's consistently bringing in anywhere from, say, $500 to $2,000 or potentially more per month.
It's a significant extra income stream for many people.
Definitely. Plus, you'd have that crucial $1,000 plus emergency fund built up, giving you that buffer against those unexpected life events that can just completely derail progress.
Right, stop you getting knocked back to square one.
Exactly. And you would have acquired a new, valuable, high-income skill, something tangible that increases your intrinsic earning potential regardless of any specific job you might have.
And you'd also have, presumably, achieved that level of control and awareness over your personal finances.
Yes. Understanding exactly where your money goes through that rigorous tracking phase, that clarity.
Yeah.
And perhaps, most significantly, the source claims you would have cultivated a fundamentally changed mindset towards money, replacing feelings of maybe helplessness with empowerment and possibility.
So the source argues that even if you're not technically a millionaire in 6 months, which, let's be clear, they don't explicitly promise,
No, they don't.
you would have laid the essential foundation. You'd be firmly on what they call the wealth track. That shift in trajectory, that's the primary goal here.
Right. And what's particularly interesting is how the source defines failure within this framework. They state it unequivocally. The only people who fail, according to them, are those who either don't start the process at all, or who start but give up too early, maybe within the first few weeks when those initial steps like the detox feel the most challenging.
That's a powerful reframe, isn't it?
It really is.
It suggests that simply taking action, any action, even small actions initially, like saving just $1 or learning for 30 minutes or reaching out to just one potential client, that's enough to put you ahead because it all builds momentum.
Exactly. The source strongly encourages just getting started. Regardless of how small those initial steps feel, just begin.
So if we connect this back to the bigger picture then, the core message from this source isn't really that you need a huge pile of money to get rich.
Not at all. Instead, it's that consistent, disciplined, and strategically focused action is the true missing ingredient for most people trying to improve their financial situation.
Right.
They argue the action piece is far more important than the having money to start piece.
So reflecting on this whole formula presented in the source you shared, what aspects maybe for you stand out the most? Which step feels like it might be the most challenging for someone to actually implement in their own life? Is it that intense initial cost cutting? The discipline of tracking every single dollar? The effort required to learn a new skill while maybe already working full-time? Or perhaps something else entirely?
That's a good question. I think building on the source's really strong emphasis on protecting your mindset.
Yeah. Step 7.
And carefully choosing your influences in that final step, that idea that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It really raises a provocative question for you, the listener, to consider. According to this perspective, how much does the company you keep truly impact your potential for financial success? Perhaps even more than your starting income level or, where you begin. It's a bold claim from the source, definitely, and certainly some food for thought.